thanks very much again for, having an interest to listen to things about, publication and research. So just to introduce myself, I'm Marwa Elnahass, a professor of accounting in the College of Business. I've been here for a few months, but I feel as if I've been here for years, given the great support and accommodation that I've been receiving from everyone in the college and my colleagues. So I feel that it's quite interesting to present this session to UDST. I've been running this for quite some years with multiple institutions, including webinars as well. But today it feels great to be, presenting this to colleagues and friends as well in the college and across other colleges as well. So those joining us outside the business school, from the education, from the School of Engineering, and from other schools and faculties as well, thanks very much. And I hope that you will make the best out of this session. So I'm running this hopefully over 1 hour. I'll try my best to stick to time, and of course we'll make sure that we're not running over the time, because you might be too exhausted toward the end of today. If you have any questions, please prepare them. I'm more than happy to take any questions toward the end of the session. The reason for that is I have so many things to talk about today, given the kind of the sensitivity of the topic to everyone, how we get the things published and how we get our paper to survive to the last stage of acceptance in ranked journals. Again, just to say a few things about myself, why I'm standing here to present this topic. I've been, leading on spatial issues and sitting on the editorial board for the last 15 years. So I've managed spatial issues with editor-in-chief. I'm serving as an associate editor in multiple journals, not only accounting and finance, but I'm sitting on editorial board for interdisciplinary journals as well. I'm a referee in journals and in research council, so I'm reviewing research application and research grants, not only, before I joined UTST, I was based in the UK, so before that I was sitting on international international research councils, including QDRI as well. So again, I would like to make a reflection to bring the confidence in the room from those coming from outside our discipline in the College of Business. What I meant to do today for this presentation is to reflect on multiple disciplines, and the nature of journals that is quite interdisciplinary. So whether you are working in business, in qualitative or quantitative research, or research is purely applied, I will be very keen, to address your inquiries, and we go through the submission process together. So the reason for that, all my research project has been quite interdisciplinary, and recently I started also to publish with industry collaborators as well. So those coming from the engineering school, from nature science, from sustainability, health management, College of Education as well. I've been engaging with all of these because the work has been quite interdisciplinary with me and the other co-authors and collaborators as well. So again, welcome everyone, and let's start with some outline for the structure of the presentation. So I'll be very keen to start, the basic thing with understanding why or how we can target, or what's your understanding and perception of ranked journals or its landscape across different disciplines. And then the preparation toward the first step, or the strategy toward the preparation of the manuscript, starting from the submission stage 1, moving forward to the writing up of the full manuscript. And then this hopefully will be the core of our session today. What's the secrets that we can reveal from an editorial board perspective as well. And if we manage to survive the time over 1 hour, I'll be very much willing to give you some hints about the importance of additional points related to references and quality checks, and how we as editors will be very much willing to look and to make a very quick cross-check on these things as we receive the manuscript, the first look to it as well. And finally, insights, more deeper insights from editorial board, depending on the decision that you will be receiving. So if I just would like to, to think and reflect from your perspective for a few seconds what a high-ranked journal means to each one of you, and what's your perception about a high-impact or a high-ranked journal? So I'm sure each one of us in this room will have a different perception, okay? Usually, if we have time, we will be more interactive on getting your definition of what a high-ranked journal means to each one of us. If you're talking about people working in the, engineering is completely different ranking and different thoughts from what they think from those who are working in management or in digital marketing or in accounting or in finance. So it all depends, how we are perceiving, the term highly ranked journals. And not only that, we also need to consider if you are collaborating with, co-authors outside your disciplines, what's our perception from each different discipline, especially that all of us nowadays are pushed to work on to a kind of a multidisciplinary research. What this means to us as well, because it has always been the case that you collaborating with people, for example, from health management or engineering school or nature science, and each one of us have a different definition and a different matrix and ranking that they would like to push forward for their projects or will be influenced for their submission at the end of the day. So what other peers, look to the publication ranking as well, or if we are talking about, peers in other institutions within Qatar or locally, or if you're talking about people in Europe, how they perceive the ranking. Are we informed and influenced by ABS ranking, or are we talking about ABDC ranking or XYZ ranking, etc.? What is the institution ranking as well? If you're talking about the need to submit to highly ranked journal, are we targeting this because it's, this is the kind of the prestigious, journal that you need to publish in, like, for example, Journal of Corporate Finance, or are we talking about something else? What's also the influence from an academic progression point of view? Why you need to submit to a highly ranked journal? Are you seeking this because of promotion? Are you seeking this because it's a career progression, i.e. you need to publish this as part of your PhD assessments, where some of the institution and PhD program, they require you to publish papers in academic journal in order to get your PhDs. For example, HBQU, they have this as a requirement for their PhD program. So other thoughts, like extended thoughts, that you might need to publish in ranked journal because this is give you a better ranking or a better scoring if you are targeting large grant applications, okay? So this will be more influential that you have published in ABS 3 stars or, 4 stars in a particular discipline, and you are submitting to a large grant application, and this will give you a better scoring by referees or peer reviewers. What also will be the case if we are talking about publication or, the challenges that you are having across highly ranked journal? And this, I'm coming back to this point later on. But the most important thing that you always have to balance between what you think and what is the realistic targets. And this is the kind of the starting point. What's your thoughts about your highly ranked journal that everyone would like to submit to and get a paper published in 4 stars ABS listed, or a 4 or 3 stars? This is the hope that we would like to have at the end of the day. But is this the fact? Is our manuscript or our work qualifies for this or not? We need to be realistic, and we need to balance between, what's your target, especially if you are seeking a kind of a career progression or a promotion in a short period of time. You need to publish something that's quite quickly, and the timeline is quite important. Yes, David?
So the fact that you want to get better, you get better reviewers, higher quality, higher standards with the higher journals. If you want to improve yourself, eventually you have to submit to those and be scrutinized by those, and you
Yes, definitely. So the feedback you mean from referees is something that is very, very important, and I'm going to tackle this throughout the presentation. So again, what I would like to start with before we go and give you some deeper insights from an editorial board perspective and what we have as a first, look to the publication, etc., is the first step. It's very, very important, and I highly recommend to everyone is to spend some good time in understanding the targeted journal that you are aiming to, or you are hitting for the publication, because all of us at the beginning, of our career, or if we are too, excited about a piece of work and we would like to get it published quickly, we always target, the highest ranked or the most influential or the one that is quite respectable or would give you a kind of, a very well-positioned ranking in your discipline. However, I always spend a lot of time with my co-authors to understand and to deeply assess our targets. So our targeted journal, the first step is to understand what's the focus of this journal. If you're talking about ESG and sustainability journal, which all of us nowadays, or most of us nowadays, are very much keen on, regardless the discipline or regardless the type of research or the research method that we are applying or the techniques, most of us nowadays are pushed to publish timely research in fintech or AI or sustainability or ESG, etc. But the whole idea, is this the suitable targeted journal for you to publish your work or not? So you need to spend some good time really to understand your target and to investigate whether your piece of work actually aligns clearly with the targeted journal or not. So you need to spend some good time, in the front page of searching the journal to understand who are the editorial board, who are the targeted audience of this journal, what is the aim and the scope of this one? This is a kind of a practical journal that is not keen about any of the theoretical work that has been, developed by you and your great co-authors? Is this journal mainly quantitative journal, or is it also inviting you to apply, or to submit qualitative research as well? Is this journal actually accepting systematic literature review, all right, which some of us might be interesting to do for a particular discipline or not? These are the kind of the things, while you are exploring your different alternative for the journal, you need to spend some good time to understand your target. Also, you need to understand not only the scope and the aim, but who are the targeted audience? Who would read your work at the end of the day? Because part of the techniques of drafting a cover letter or convincing your editor-in-chief to pass the screening step is to make sure that you align your manuscript to the targeted audience. And you have to show evidence that this is actually meeting the kind of the scope of the journal, and the readers and the users of this journal will be interested in your work. You also need to understand that for many journals nowadays, especially, for example, if talking about the British Journal of Management or big journal like Journal of Business Ethics, etc., we have a kind of a multiple themes, all right? So you have multiple sections of different associate editors who will be handling your paper. So you need to study each one of these themes. You need to make sure that if your study, for example, is on AI and explainable AI, etc., this should not go to the editor, associate editor, and you should not target the theme that is talking about social capital or governance, etc., because you are targeting the different or the wrong associate editor to handle your paper, and it will go to them straight away because you have referenced their name in the cover letter, as we will mention. So study the themes and the specialization if this journal is actually allowing you for having multiple submissions or multiple, not submission, I mean, if this journal is influenced or led by different associate editors across different themes and specialization. And most importantly, how long you would like to take. What's your time frame for this? And this actually goes back to the same idea, why you need to publish this paper in a ranked journal. So if we are targeting this publication in order to, to get a promotion, or you need to pass something like to have a quick publication on a very timely topic, again, like ESG, for example, or if you're talking about fintech and everyone is pushed to publish it straight away in a very timely matter, and you don't want your data to get outdated somehow or become obsolete, you really need to work on this very quickly. So ideally, you don't want to spend time in targeting journal that you know from your colleagues and from history, and even when you submit your paper, you find that this will take a lot of time. So you have expected this, review process to get a 3 months notice to receive any feedback from the journal, but it ended up with a year until you heard back from this, or 9 months. So this is unrealistic, and you need to get this as quickly as possible. So be very mindful about your time. If you are targeting special issues, call of papers in one of the very good journal, you think that this is very timely and it fits very well with your scope of the research or research questions, you have to be very mindful that from experience, special issues takes time, okay? And this is without doubt, regardless whether this is for an accounting discipline or finance, management, marketing, economics, engineering, special issues do take time, actually, all right? So you have to be mindful, and unless you think that this is quite influential special issue and you will have a kind of a targeted audience that will be published in a highly ranked, and you have a very good chance for this. So while you are understanding and thinking about the targeted journal landscape, you need to start think about the following questions. So you need to understand specific, and you consider certain aspects while you are preparing your manuscript. Does this journal actually have a high or low acceptance rate? Of course, most of the good journals, they undergo a peer review, okay? Unless, this is a specific, very technical journal, maybe in the, from colleagues working on the engineering school, sometimes their journals doesn't have to go across peer review and has to go to technical experts. But the most important question, what is the average acceptance rate? We know by default in many disciplines, for example, in X journal, that it has a very low rate of acceptance. And what you will find while you are understanding or reviewing your targets, many of the journals, they state the percentage of the acceptance rate, okay? So it all depends. Are you patient enough, or would you like to take the risk for very low acceptance rate in this particular respectable journal, and you would like, to submit, and you go ahead and you have a trial and see, who knows, you might get the chance to publish there. But you have to be realistic, okay? If this is a low acceptance rate, and if this journal is very competitive, so it is unlikely that you will have a good chance to publish there in a short time frame. So be realistic. We all would like to target 4-star and 4, but the expected average rate of acceptance is very low, and they have a long timeline as well. What is the impact factor? Some of us are influenced by the impact factor. So in many institutions, whether it's in Europe, in UK, in US, in Canada, even in Qatar as well, we are influenced by the impact factor and Scopus listing as well. So again, the new strategy, especially in the UK nowadays, in top institutions, that they started to think that ABS list and ABDC is a nonsense to follow as a matrix for promotion or for recruitment, etc. And we should be influenced by the impact factor of journals, okay? Again, there is a lot of debates nowadays that impact journal is quite biased, it's not realistic, editors-in-chief play around the figures, etc. So there is a big debate about the impact factor as well. So it depends on what exactly you would like to do and what's your perception about impact factors. So one suggestion, again, because I've seen this a lot nowadays, is that Co-authors are very rushed to submit their work and to get their work published quickly. And what they started to do is they throw their paper straight away to multiple journals at the same time, simultaneously, okay? And this is very, very risky, and I assure you that it's a closed community, it's a small world, everything is somehow tracked. So if you are submitting your paper to Elsevier or to XYZ publisher, everything became very well connected. And what I have seen on sitting on editorial board for years now, this is easily picked up, and it will be flagged to editors-in-chief, and you will be flagged, as with this bad practice or having this, like flagging behavior that you are throwing your work to multiple journals at the same time. And that's why you have seen, or probably some of you have seen, that on the system nowadays, the submission system of Elsevier or other publisher as well, you have to tick and you have to mark that your work is not under submission anywhere else. And this will be part of the cover letter that you will have to confirm and assure the editor that your work is not under review anywhere else. So I strongly advise, especially for early career, do not follow this practice, even if your, co-author or senior co-author is pushing you for a quick decision that you do that. This is a bad practice, and once it's flagged to editor-in-chief, you will be red flagged, okay, on the system and on the blacklist, okay? Through the pre-submission steps, I suggest that if you, and again from experience on sitting on this editorial boards for multiple years now, I strongly suggest that the more time that you invest in understanding the landscape and understanding your targeted journal and discussing this, with connected people in the area and seeking feedback from your colleagues, your peers in other institutions, and even consulting or reviewing criteria for recruitment or promotions in the targeted institution, the more that you increase your chance that your paper will pass the desk screening, okay? So you are trying to understand this landscape of the journal just to maximize your chances, that this paper will go under review and it's in a safe hands of a good referees as well. What will be the next step? So the submission strategy is, from my point of view, is somehow classified, generally speaking, from an editorial perspective or from a co-author perspective. We have 2 milestones for the submission criteria when you are working on any manuscript. Again, regardless of the discipline that you are covering or what type of research, qualitative or quantitative or technical, applied, experiential, XYZ, these are the kind of the thing that I would strongly recommend that you consider while you are writing up your manuscript or your study. So the first step is the preparation of the manuscript, okay? What I have seen is that, again, to try to maximize your chances for a good, short, under-review process, is that you spend some good time in drafting these key components of the manuscript. These are the basic things, and this is somehow one of the key things that I reveal it from an editorial perspective. The first thing that we look at is the abstract, introduction, blended keywords, and of course the reference list and the conclusion. In between, for the desk review, in between, of course, we had to check any kind of similarities. Everything will be technically flagged by the system if this has been submitted somewhere else, if there is a high similarity even with your work later on, or, this is somehow will be, scrutinized by the system itself. Yes? The desk review, yeah, that's a good question, thank you. So when we receive your paper as editors-in-chief, okay, we have to have a very clear review of it, whether it will go to the next step to send it to referees or not. So we call this as a desk review. So it's like, I'm receiving your manuscript or script from the exam, and I'm just making a cross-check for everything that everything is correct. We are happy this meets the scope and the aims of the journal, and should go and move forward to the next step. Because the key thing, and this is a very good question, thanks for raising that, we would like to save the time of referees, and the referees is quite a valuable resource for us. We don't want to overwhelm them with submissions or manuscripts that is not meeting the scope of the journal, or of a low quality, or of a high similarity, or lack the contribution or novelty as well. So we really need to make sure that what we are receiving, we are 100% confident that it has a chance to go under good reviews. Then later on, the stages of revisions, giving them a good comments to improve the exposition of the study, etc., will come under the whole review process, which can be through multiple rounds of submissions, okay? So this is what I mean by the desk review or the desk screening. So everything that I've been, trying to address here is trying to just push the paper forward to pass the desk screening or the desk review rejection, which is very high nowadays, especially in good journals and ranked journals. You commonly will receive an email to say, we are very sorry, we regret to inform you that this paper does not align with the scope of the journal, or we don't see that there is a good contribution in it, and we are very sorry that we're not sending it out for review, okay? So this became very, common nowadays in good journals as well. So part of the submission criteria, as I said, is for you that I strongly advise that you spend some good time in drafting your abstract, select your keywords very carefully, okay? Again, for very tiny topics, if you're talking about sustainability and ESG, which, became quite overwhelming for many journals, even computer science, people started to publish, in sustainability and ESG now. You need to be very careful about the selection of the keywords that you are using. You need to be quite attractive, to the editors in SHAP, that your paper stands, it's quite distinctive, it's quite unique in its own, including how you would communicate this from the first, review, again, the desk review part, through attracting them through the abstract and the keywords or the blended keywords, as well as the adherence of the journal guidelines. Surprisingly, okay, what I have seen that if you don't commit or you don't follow the journal guidelines, either the simple things like formatting, font size, the abstract, the length of the abstract, etc., you offer them a chance to reject your paper, okay? So in one of the very top journal, I've received a rejection to say you didn't follow the font size, or the abstract was too long, okay? What is this? So this was very, very much frustrating to me to get a desk rejection on the basis of that I've not complied with the journal guidelines. But the key thing, again, it's part of the game that they would like to save the time or find a reason to reject your paper, all right, from the first review for any reason, okay, for any other, secret reason that we might reveal it later on. But the key thing, don't give them the chance to do that. Make sure that you follow the guidelines, you prepare an attractive abstract, use attractive and good blended keywords as well. Cover letter. Many of the, co-authors that I've found, or many of the papers that I have reviewed, or I've been leading on special issues, reading many, many cover letters before, people do not put good efforts in the preparation of the cover letter, okay? And this is actually is not a good thing, especially nowadays. If you're talking about timely research, again, I'm always using and referring to sustainability and ESG, fintech, AI. Everyone, is panicking about publishing in this one. So how you're going to attract me from the first review of your paper, including the cover letter, to attract my attention that this particular manuscript fits with the scope of the journal, meets the kind of the expectation in terms of the readers of the journal, and it offers very clear, crystal clear incremental contribution, given that a lot has been published in ESG. So what's your incremental contribution? And most importantly, what's the implication of the paper itself? So you need to spend some good time to prepare a good, concise, indicative cover letter. So the key things or the key component that I strongly suggest to consider and to tackle in your cover letter is to think about how you would summarize your research concisely. Okay, so do not put the full introduction section, and I've seen cover letters 5 pages, okay? Nobody will spend time to read cover letter with 5 pages. Just highlight and put a lot of emphasis on the significance of your study, how this fits the scope, why it's interesting, why it's important, what's the incremental contribution that you are bringing on the table to us as, editors-in-chief for this particular journal. Also, make sure that you reference clearly that your paper is original, had not been published elsewhere, it's not under submission elsewhere, and make sure that, again, you're giving them the kind of the confidence about, that this is actually a kind of an authentic, original novel study. So this is the kind of, one of the cover letters as an example that I would say something like, dear professor, the editor-in-chief, associate editor, respect the associate editor, because you sometimes forget that. You don't have to mention the name because you don't know who will handle your paper, okay? We would like to submit the enclosed manuscript by consideration by X, journal. You provide a very short summary for for your analysis or for your study. What's the incremental contribution? Why you think this will be of an interest to the readers of the journal? Again, going back to the same point, how this is important and how this fits with the journal scopes and aims, and most importantly, what's the implication of the study? Very important that you put the implication. Nowadays, many journals put a lot of emphasis on the impact of the research, whether it's policy implication, whether it's market implication, and we will talk on more details on that. And then try to state something, what's the kind of the position, all right? Let the senior people maybe submit that, because this is somehow give some influence for this, if you are having somebody sitting on the, as a co-authors as a senior guy, or if you would like to submit this as an early career, just put your affiliation and state that you are submitting this on behalf of the co-authors. This is one of the very tricky things that, the slides that have always been asked to present, on webinars and presentation. And by the way, such type of presentation, I usually include loads of emojis in it, okay? This is the style of presentation that I like. But since we are today a bit formal in a PD day, so I thought, okay, let's make it quite more formal, and we include 2, but there are some others to list in the next slide. The key idea, because these emojis are the one that express how I would look like when I'm reviewing the paper, or when I'm receiving this as an editor, or addressing this from a referee perspective. When it comes to the preparation of the manuscript, key things that I would strongly recommend colleagues here, again, regardless their disciplines, regardless their research scope, etc., and to avoid the rejection, the desk rejection, and the return of the manuscript, is to make sure that, as I said, read the guidelines, spend few minutes on reading the guidelines of the journal and adhering to the requirement of the journal if you're talking about the length. So the British Journal of Management, some of you might know, it's one of the respected journals in the UK and others, and they put a strict requirement that you cannot exceed 8,000 words. Otherwise, your manuscript will either be rejected or it will be returned to you to resubmit. So don't waste time. Read the guidelines. Spend some good time in reviewing the guidelines and preparing your manuscript accordingly. Another thing that is very important: you cannot submit to XYZ journal without citing some of their papers. This is one of the very bad practice, again, that some academics would follow, that they are rushed, especially if you are switching between journals. So, for example, your paper got rejected in Journal of Business Ethics, and you would like to take this paper and submit it to Business Strategy and the Environment, for example. And you forgot to sign and cite any paper from Business Strategy and Environment, okay? And you have all your citation in the first journal, i.e. the Business Ethics. So, when we receive a paper like that, and we are quite surprised that you have not even cited one single paper from the journal and you expect me, to review this and to send it under review, this is one of the bad practice and one of the key things that we would consider during the review process. Also, it has to be free from typos, okay? I've seen a load of papers from senior colleagues, with all respect, that the paper has been submitted to us with typos, with ChatGPT comms. We have been talking about this in the morning. And, with lots of errors, no page numbers, very bad quality control checks, okay? And this is quite surprising that it's coming from big names in the discipline. So you need to spend some good time to check, all right, and to review your own work, your genuine work, and to make sure that this has been properly referenced for the targeted journal. It's free from error. It has the proper quality check, including tables, descriptive stats, figures, charts, appendices as well. Do not include sections, and I'm talking to people, beloved colleagues from the management, marketing, business. I know that people from technical college like engineering, they don't like writing too much, okay? So I've worked with them. I know that they don't like writing long manuscript, and we have always struggled together to write joint papers. But we love writing, in social sciences. And the key aspects that you will have to consider is do not have section that is either too long or too short. You have to make a balanced structure. So for example, you cannot write an introduction section that is 10 pages or 7 pages, and then a theoretical framework that is half a page. And I've seen this as well. Or you cannot include a research methodology, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, for 5 pages, and you are discussing your results in 1 page, okay? You have to be mindful about the structure and balancing between your sections as well. Do not structure your manuscript as a thesis. And we have seen this, again, for senior colleagues who are publishing their work with their MC students, or with doctoral students, or for early career, or for PhD students submitting their work from their thesis. Do not structure this as a thesis. In other words, do not include the subsection, the numbering of the thesis, section 3.1, 3.1a, 3.1b, etc. Okay? I would strongly address or recommend that you download the papers from the targeted journal for the last 3 years, and you start to replicate their structure and the writing style and the presentation style. This will be, the fastest, the quickest, the shortest way to do this, okay? So download their papers, see how they have been presenting this, and see how you can replicate not the writing style, but the structure and the title. Borrow some of their titles as well, either for the main manuscript or for the subsections. Acknowledgement is very important, and you will be surprised to know that we as, editors will look to who you acknowledged your manuscript. So if you presented your work in a good international conference, or even in a local conference, if any of the good academics, scholars have read your work, cite them, okay? If you have other people, in abroad have reviewed your work under a kind of a conference proceedings or anything like that, make sure that you acknowledge big name, because this gives us a confidence that the work has been somehow preliminary reviewed and assessed, and people have commented on it positively as well. I would strongly suggest that early career, and again, colleagues who are working on new disciplines, that they seek support to improve their work and obtain feedback from colleagues who have already experience in publishing their work, okay? It's very important to have this kind of an overview, and this will actually serve you to include an acknowledgement at the end. The second step of the submission strategy will be mainly the writing up. I would spend a lot of time with my co-authors, okay, to see how we're going to sell out our manuscript, okay? This needs some techniques, all right? How we're going to make this attractive and informative, but at the same time, timely and catchy as well. Especially, again, when we are referring to timely topics or topics that are quite interesting and a lot is rushing to publish, sustainability, fintech, AI, etc. So I would put a lot of emphasis to emphasize on the importance of developing a coherent, a cohesive, clear, concise writing style. These are the kind of things that you will gain by experience, and I'm sure all of you are more experienced than me in writing and selling out your papers. But I would strongly suggest that, again, people coming from a technical perspective or from an applied research perspective is to avoid the language that is quite ambiguous. So don't expect that the referees who are reviewing their work are expert in this particular topic, okay? Explainable AI, it has a lot of technicalities as well. So if this is sent to me, all right, as a referee, and I don't understand one term, I will refer it back to you and waste your time for one round of submission to understand specific terms as well. Again, back to the key points that you have to be quite balanced in your writing style. Make sure that the sections are not too short or too long, as we mentioned. So think about the purpose of each section. Should we have this section to stand on its own, or should we actually, or this is a kind of a redundant discussion, we should remove it completely from the manuscript? It's not serving the purpose. Make it quite concise and clear as well. You need to spend some good time, and this is very important that, again, it's part of adhering to the journal requirement. Make sure that you have a clear and representative definitions, table, supplementary material. Nowadays, many of the journals allow you to include a supplementary folder, okay, or a supplementary file as part of your uploads on the system. So anything like extra analysis or additional discussions or narrative description for your surveys or any specific narrative content analysis, for example, you can upload these as a supplementary document. It doesn't have to sit as part of the manuscript itself. So also make sure, again, I keep emphasizing on this because I've seen a lot recently with leading on special issues that people don't care about the guidelines and the visual presentation and the visual, aspects about presenting their work. If you have good funding, either from your grant application or you are happy to fund this, I would strongly suggest that you send your manuscript to professional proof editor, who are specialized in checking the work and making sure that it's correct in terms of English, grammar. There's no grammar mistake. There is no typos. If you have the budget for them to check your reference list, please send this out as well. We started the secrets, okay, and I'll make sure that we're not going over time as well to allow you some time to, to reflect on this and again start to prepare your questions toward the end of this session, please. One of the first key secrets that I would like to start with is the title, okay? The title of the paper, especially with the timely topics, matters a lot nowadays for the blended keywords that you will be using in your title. Don't use ChatGPT, please, okay? Because it started to be very easily picked up for the mix of the title of, how we're using this is the nexus of blah, 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 or, devolving into, these are the kind of the things that you need to put a lot of attention and effort to it. Brainstorm this with your co-author. Think about, revising your title over and over, and again, make sure that you tailor it to the targeted journal as well. See example from the recently published papers in this journal and try to get a kind of a good titles as well. Abstract, as we said, you need to spend some good time on that and check a sample from the published paper. Importance and motivation, secret number 2. I would spend, again, a lot of time to understand and to emphasize on the importance and the motivation of our study, especially, again, if your topic is quite timely and competitive in terms of the competition as well. So what I would suggest is that you take two particular action to review the prior studies, but it's not for the sake of the main thesis, style of listing prior studies. You are using the prior studies to motivate your paper to say that this paper is quite novel and important because no one, to the best of our knowledge, have published this particular research in X, Y, Z, okay? So you are confident about what you're doing. You are building your confidence, you are assuring your referees about the importance and the motivation of this study. It's also very important that you, address and you cite the paper. This is the best way that you will cite your paper. You will cite papers from the targeted journals as well, who you are targeting from the referees, okay? So usually, when we see XYZ has been cited in the first early introduction paragraph and the contribution paragraph, we send out these papers too, okay? Because those are the big names or somehow the popular names in your discipline that we have seen you citing them a lot. So probably we will start to send them the paper as a referees to invite them to review your work and comment on it. Do not extend or do not exaggerate, and put more emphasis on the motivation and include discussion that is already well known. So, for example, definition of what is Islamic banking is, for example, or what is ESG is. Everyone nowadays knows what is ESG means or what is Islamic banking means. So do not spend time in the motivation section, to define things that is already well known, or at least you can include it in footnotes. Incremental contribution, as I said, is very important, and I always use the term incremental because it's not only about the contribution, it's about how incremental or what additional you are bringing on the table to the reviewers to attract their attention for your work for timely topics. Don't exaggerate. Don't say that this is the only study in ESG or in fintech, okay? Don't say that this is the only study in explainable AI, in doing X, Y, Z. We know that a lot has been published nowadays, okay? But at the same time, make sure that you're not overemphasizing on the significance, and at the same time, you are selling your paper very well. Part of the incremental contribution, and this again matters and differs across discipline, it all depends what's your thoughts about the contribution. Are you talking about a new theoretical framework that you are bringing on the table to the editors? Again, given that this particular journal is interested in theoretical contribution, and this is not a quantitative type of journal. Are you talking about methodological contribution? Or you're talking about unique data sets that you have developed, and nowadays top journals are very much keen. I'm talking about 4 stars and 4 and highly ranked, the top tier of 3 stars. They are very much willing to see new data sets. So even if you are spending some good time, with your students or with your co-author to build new and unique data set, this will help you to distinguish your research going forward and along the very competitive market for these timely topics. So I would strongly nowadays invite colleagues in different disciplines to start to build their unique data sets, especially if you're talking about timely topics, if you can. Practical contribution. Nowadays, we're talking about impact, right? And many journals, top journals, again, are very much willing, especially, for example, if you're talking about 4 and 4 stars and ABS 3 listed journals, they are talking about moving forward to publish research that is bringing more of the impact. So they don't care that much about the endogeneity treatment or the methodological or the research methods, ethos, etc. They would like to see unique and a kind of a solid standalone, robust data sets. So you need to start to think about building that, invest in that, target, new funding application that would help you to establish that with a stronger team and try to invite people from other disciplines as well. So nowadays I'm working, with other colleagues in management, in marketing, in nature science, health science, engineering, to build stronger data sets, because on my own as an accounting and finance, I don't think that this will be quite solid to stand on its own as something that is quite unique. Industry-based contribution, you need to start thinking about collaborating with your business partners as well, and this is very much looked nowadays by good journals. Implication, as I said, very much linked to what we have discussed in terms of the impact here. You need to think about how you will impress your referees and editors-in-chief with the implication to stakeholders, okay? A lot has been addressed, and maybe you have received some comments already from referees to say that there is no implication, in your study. So you need to spend some good time to state clearly what is the implication of your study. Is it a kind of a market implication? Is it a policy implication, practical, managerial, or theoretical? So it's very important that you discuss this concisely. And the best way to communicate this, remember, if you go back to my first slide, we are talking about, structuring your manuscript to attract editors from the first check of your study. So implication should be presented at least in your short abstract, in your introduction and your conclusion, the key section that we will look at the first stage of the review. Then literature review and background. I would spend one full lecture on trying to address the importance of and how you would tackle background and literature review, but I'm very cautious of time now. Theoretical framework. Top journals nowadays, and I assure you with 100% confidence regarding the disciplines, they put a lot of emphasis nowadays on the theoretical framework. You will probably have seen referees to say that your paper lacks theoretical underpinning or a theoretical framework. So you need to spend some good time with your co-authors to establish a proper, a good theoretical framework that actually supports your prediction, your underpinning research questions, your analysis later on. If you're doing some qualitative research or applied research or technical research, this should be informed by some theories as well. And you can see that nowadays, especially in the social sciences, we can borrow actually theories from each other. So, for example, my research in banking borrowed a lot of theories from the management discipline and from the psychology disciplines as well, when we have been talking about things related to gender diversity or women empowerment, etc. So you can use blended theories, and this is the good thing that you work on an interdisciplinary research, or you can also think about combining multiple theories. Sample and methodology, I'm sure all of us have passed, this pain where every referee is coming back to us to say, oh, your sample is outdated. You have not justified your sample years. You have not justified your country context or the industry context, or, you are not convincing me that your sample and data is quite robust enough. So you need to think about that, and most importantly, you need to list your data sources, okay? So you have to provide a kind of assurance that your data is genuine, authentic, and it's, again, as you have seen in many journals nowadays, they require you to confirm in writing that your data might be needed to be uploaded to the system for open access somehow, especially in top journals nowadays, as part of, disseminating your research or making it publicly available. So if your research is quite empirical, you will have always to make sure that your analysis and you spend a good time in the discussion part where you are aligning your empirical findings and the hypothesis discussions, etc. Of course, because I understand today that people are joining, outside the discipline of social sciences. So I removed all discussion about hypothesis development, etc., that I would, address in other lectures or other sessions as well. But these are the key things. If your research is quite analytical or informed by primary and secondary research as well, or secondary data that you align and you consider comparison with prior literature, addressing again or revisiting your theory and supporting your research findings. If your research is qualitative research, okay, you're running surveys, you're running interviews, and you have spent excellent amount of time and the funds and resources to establish your qualitative analysis, these are the key things that I would give a lot of attention to, especially that you're talking about nowadays the importance of ethics clearance, etc. So you really need to spend some good time in getting your ethics clearance and ethics certificate before you conduct any research. And this will be part of the assessment of your study during the review process. Finally, one of the key consideration for the research again is how we are approaching and convincing the referee and the editor-in-chief about the conclusion and the future research. One of the key things or the key secrets that we put a lot of emphasis on it as an editors, how we are going to look to your limitation in the study. In addition to the implication part that we discussed, what's the main limitation of your study from one side, and how you are inviting future research to look to your study as well. So one of the key things that nowadays we started clearly to ask in our review process or paper that are close to publication, that we ask them that they offer a clear venues for future research, okay? Because guess what? This will attract a lot of citation to the journal and your paper later on. So spend some good time, to address venues of future research, and this will actually give you a lot of credit when it comes to addressing your conclusion in addition of the core things. So things that is related to additional tips and reference list, I'm going to skip these. Quality control are very, very important for us to consider. Checks that is related, as I said, do not develop lengthy manuscript. Please do not prepare papers that are over 45 pages, excluding tables and references. Okay, the average that in any journal, you're talking about a maximum of 15,000 words. Anything beyond that will be quite criticized, okay? So make sure that your manuscript is quite short and concise and not overwhelming. Remember, referees are quite valuable source for us as well. Rejection, and I'm very keen to put a very quick, emphasis, because these are the kind of desk rejection key points that I would look at. My checklist as an editor to look into these kind of things. I would ask with my, lead editors as well and associate editor, these are the key things that we discuss on an editorial board. Does the manuscript actually offers a novel study? If you're talking about timely topic, does it bring anything new to us for this journal, yes or no? Does it bring a kind of the argument that is based on a robust analysis, novel data sets? Is it something that we would trust that this is quite genuine and can be generalized as well? Things, if you're talking about empirical research, what would be the key things that any referee would return it back to us, in social sciences when the research is quite empirical? How you have treated the endogeneity biases and biased results overall. Literature review, how this is solid enough, how this is comprehensive enough. Have you addressed any kind of cutting edge methodology? So people who have been leading on the engineering, and health management have been identifying quite new and novel methodology for us. I think this is very important to tackle and to clarify clearly while you are writing your manuscript. Other things that I would look at, and again, because of the time, I'm unable to continue with that. I've addressed, the type of the editorial decision under each, classification, and each one of them, have a long story to tell behind. But I'm mindful that you are, exhausted now with the long presentation, and I don't want to take much of your time. And at the same time, I'm very much keen to listen to you and to raise some question. Maybe some of these will tackle some of the, classification that we have for the editorial decisions. So, yeah, so that's the kind of the end of everything. So thanks very much. Thank you. So, well, we have been asked actually for you to scan this and provide some feedback for the whole PD, session. But I'm very much keen now, to include my email address. If you have any inquiries, I'm more than happy, given the restriction of the time, to discuss this or any of these points with you in details. I'm more than happy to support anyone who will be willing to get more information about what we discussed today. But I would like to see if you have a question, please. Yes, Mr. Hakim, yes?
Thank you very much, Prof. That's very insightful. Two things. I have what I would say, two questions.
Yes.
And then I also want to share one or two insights.
Yes, please.
And then maybe you agree. And I'm talking from personal experience, where we've had to send paper out, and by the time it came back for review, like you said, in one of the ABS3 Foster journals, we were constrained with time to do the review on time and send back.
Okay.
We know that because it was at a time when all of us on the paper were busy with exams
Yes,
and stuff
I know,
like that.
I
So
know.
I'm just trying to share this with colleagues that it is also acceptable that you bring in a fresh hand,
Yeah.
subject to the approval of the editorial team.
That's very important, okay? Well, this is very important. Bringing new co-authors
Yeah.
when the paper has passed first round of review is quite questionable, and you have to provide very strong
Very strong
justification.
reasons, yeah.
Yeah,
Another reason why I've had to do that in the past is one of the reviewers came from a sociological perspective,
okay?
which is out of my depth as a researcher, and as a result of that, we have to write to the editorial board to seek their permission to add such person. Of course, it's always a very tough call, but like you said, with a very strong letter to back it up and giving them the profile of the person you are adding,
Yes,
I think it is usually very acceptable. So it is one of the ways not to waste such a bullet,
yeah.
so that the paper still see the light of the day at the end of the day. I think the other thing that I want to say that I have also done in the past, which can also help, because writing at the top level can be very frustrating.
Yes,
Your paper has gone for 18, 24 months, and
Yeah.
then it's still dancing around. Sometimes you've lost hope. But one of the things we've also done in the past is that 3 reviewers, obvious to us that one of them read the paper very well and provide very good suggestions. The other 2 barely brush through it with little or no suggestions and condemn the
Yeah.
paper, but the editorial board was generous enough to ask us to revise and resubmit.
yes,
We had to write to the board, and I think this was, I think it's 3-star ITP, Information Technology and People.
Yeah.
And they agreed, because what we seek is, can we be connected to that particular reviewer who gave very good suggestion, but again, heavy and out of our depth. Now, they were kind enough to allow that, but it means that person cannot review the paper.
yeah, that's very
Again,
generous of them,
but
because
yes, so
usually
I know that.
we won't do that, you know?
Yeah, because until we did that, I never knew that was possible.
Yeah,
I never
yeah,
knew we could do
yeah.
that. But it happened.
It,
So
it depends on the journal, by the way. The journal policies sometimes it does not allow, doing that.
yes, thank you for that. So but my question is 2 questions. One, when you submit a paper out to a first-time journal, and you know the process, within the first 6 months you may not hear anything.
Yes, absolutely.
In between the time that your paper is under review, you then found that the journal has been downgraded from 4-star to a 3-star.
Mm-hmm.
Your target is a 4-star. Now you are frustrated, even when the paper comes back for revise and resubmit. Because you have submitted to this 4-star, you cannot then take the paper to another 4-star.
But you have the right to withdraw the paper anytime.
Well, by the time this is coming, it's already on revise and resubmit.
Yeah,
So can I still withdraw the paper
Yes,
and
you
take it
can.
to another market?
At any point, even before the final, acceptance, you have the right to withdraw the paper anytime you want to from the journal. Nobody can stop you from doing that, and I've done that, plenty of times. I'm not happy about the length of the reviews, or I'm not happy about the extent of the feedback that has been given to me. So I just, have withdrawn the paper from the journal.
And the second question, thank you for that. The second question is where you have a reviewer imposing his own idea.
Oh yeah.
I'm writing on gig economy, and the reviewer is now imposing that I should navigate that towards employees' voice. For example, I don't want to write on employees' voice. The paper has come for revise and resubmit. I don't want to waste the effort I put on the paper. Shouldn't the editor intervene at that material time and reshape such that the focus of my paper is not changed,
Yeah.
and I'm not frustrated to lose it?
Yeah.
And
So-
I'm talking of a recent experience.
I know what you mean. So these are the kind of things that I've been, trying to tackle during the revision stage, that for comments that you're not happy, you're not satisfied, you don't think that this is quite doable, or they are too challenging, or they are completely wrong, okay? I still believe that there is a way to convince the referees that this is, you cannot do it. It's a kind of something that is out of the scope of the paper. So you don't have to act, in a kind of a confrontational, or aggressive way. But you just have to say politely and quietly somehow that we thank the referees for their suggestion, but we believe that doing this is kind of an outside the scope of the paper. This is one good polite response. Or you can say something like, we believe that this is very interesting, but we think that this will stand on its own as a separate question, or a separate methodology, or a separate theoretical framework. So you are giving them the kind of assurance that you are happy, but this is out of the scope, we're not convinced, okay? But it happens a lot, okay? And if this comment, if they are not happy and they reverted, the comment back, and they started to say, or returning the comments back to you to say, no, you have to do that, then you have to email the editor, associate editor handling the paper, to say, look, this is not doable. There is a restriction on the data. We don't believe that this is the right framework to apply, or this is the right, and then the editor-in-chief has to interfere. But at the very early stage of drafting your response report, take the opportunity to convince them politely that this is out of the scope, that you don't want to do that, okay? Yeah, thanks very much, Dr. Hakim. That's very insightful. Any other comments, please? Any other questions you have? I guess everyone is tired and need a break to stretch their leg, to get a refreshment, and to have some high blood pressure now with some sweets outside as well, and caffeine. So thanks very much for attending this session, and I enjoyed it very much doing it to you today. Thank you. Thank you.